Perfect. You totally did that even though we're not recording separate audio. I love it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Adventure. I am Danielle and this is Calvin.
Hi.
For those who don't know.
Nobody knows it's me.
Yes, the beanie totally hides your crazy hair.
We're going to get to that in a little bit.
So for those of you who are new to the show, this is the show where my travel buddies and I, we talk, we joke, we reminisce, and we roast each other about trips in the past and the spontaneous craziness that ensues. And we also talk about the things we learned along the way on our travels of, you know, what was a good choice, what were some maybe poor choices that we wouldn't do in the future, stuff and things like that.
Yeah. And sorry if the audio on this isn't perfect. I packed the Tascam, but I didn't think to charge the batteries enough, and I didn't think to pack a cable. So we're solely relying on the GoPro audio here. We're still getting, you know, the hang of doing this the right way.
For shame. Shameful.
I know. Very shameful. I had to put that in there because that was 100% my fault, though. So, good travel advice. If you're going to be documenting things, pack batteries. If they're rechargeable, pack a charger and or pack a cable so you can power the thing off a battery bank. There. Travel advice.
So, if you're wondering where we are currently in what is Carson River Park, and those of you who are probably asking, where the heck is that? That is just on the outskirts of Carson City, Nevada. What are we doing out in Carson City, Nevada? Well, we just went to their Nevada Day celebration, which was an absolute blast.
That was yesterday as of the time of filming.
As of the time of filming, yes. So we thought it would be cool to, you know, come to, of course, another natural area because that's where I like to do these kinds of things, and talk about our experience and maybe also give some tips as to people who maybe would be interested in coming out in the future for other events and celebrations.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you just want to hear about our stories and about the craziness that happens, then that's cool too.
So, where do we want to start off with this? How we even found out about Nevada Day? Because we don't live in Nevada, for those who don't know.
No, we don't. Although I keep making a bet with a certain other travel buddy of ours that he's going to become a resident before too long because he practically lives at the Nevada State Railroad Museum now.
No comment on that.
But yeah, well, let's do this. I think we should go back in time a little bit. How did we even get out to Carson City in the first place? We talked about it a little bit in another episode when we were doing our Lassen trip.
Yeah.
But maybe we could go into a little more detail of how that all occurred and how it snowballed into many visits to Carson City after that.
Well, do you want me to explain it? Because I was kind of the catalyst behind it.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so for those who don't know about me, in short, I pretty much grew up watching a bunch of science documentaries, and I was born in 91, so I got peak science and technology shows and all that stuff. And one show that I absolutely loved as a kid was Extreme Machines, and I've been slowly amassing a VHS collection of them that I'm actually taking the VHS tapes and then with my dad's help copying them to a DVD, because VHS tapes and VCRs are only going to last for so long. But the thing is, in one of the episodes, I believe it was Wheels of Steel, they mentioned the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Carson City, and they featured the Inyo steam locomotive. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then as time went on, I figured out that they also had the McKean car, which is just like this super futuristic looking, crazy, gigantic locomotive. And I was doing some design work for somebody who wanted a model of one. And Danielle had mentioned wanting to go out to Lassen. And I'm like, hey, I've always wanted to go out to Carson City and check out the Nevada State Railroad Museum. can we kind of fit that in there, because it was a little bit out of our way to go to Carson City, but then you also wanted to do Sea-Doos in Tahoe.
Well, and also was that the trip? Yeah, that was the trip where we went up 395, wasn't it? Or no?
No, that was a different trip.
Never mind.
Yeah, because we kind of started the trip in Salinas. We started that trip and ended that trip in Salinas because of the key incident.
Yeah. So, yeah, and even though it was going to be out of our way a little bit, like, I knew that Carson City was close to the Tahoe area, and I absolutely love the Tahoe area. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, that would be a stop worth making. And, you know, it's probably going to be more interesting than driving up the 5.
Yeah. not to say that Northern California 5, which we've done a little bit of, isn't a lot more spectacular, but the more of the central and southern part, it's just nothing and cows and nothing.
Pretty much.
And a bunch of anti-Nancy Pelosi signs. Not making a political statement, it's just that's what you see out there. But yeah, so what happened is we eventually made our way out to Carson City, made it over to the Railroad Museum, and to any of the volunteers over there who know me, who've seen this, it's because you guys were all so friendly and so welcoming and just so enthusiastic to show us all around. Even during COVID is when we went. I greatly appreciated that, and that's what really made me fall in love with the museum, because I've been to a lot of museums where it's like, you know, the docents are, you know, friendly and whatnot, but it's kind of like, they're not like, oh, you want to check this out? Yeah, we'll open this up and show this to you, and you got questions? Oh, you want it? And it's like, it's because you guys were so nice and so welcoming and so friendly. That's pretty much why I just kept on coming back after that.
That was one thing that I noticed going there, because again, I mean, this was something that he really wanted to do. This wasn't necessarily something that I had planned or would have done myself, but, you know, because he really wanted to do it, and he's a train nerd, and it's like, you know, learning history about the railroads it has its interest. So it's what created the country as we know it. Yeah, exactly. So we went over there, and that was the thing that was really cool about this museum in particular, was that, I mean, obviously they were still like careful to, like, you know, let people know it's like, this is what you're allowed to do, this is what's off limits and stuff like that, which of course every museum is going to have, because it's like, you got to make sure that everybody's safe and that things stay preserved. But they also promoted this kind of atmosphere of encouraging curiosity. So if people had questions, or they wanted to get a closer look at something which maybe necessarily wasn't on the regularly scheduled program, they still went out of their way to accommodate those things to the best of their ability and to what was reasonable. And I think that is what made for a memorable experience. Like, you know, just the other day, because of course we come out to Carson City, he has to visit it again. We ride on the McKean car a couple of times, but I remember in like a couple seats on the other side of the car when we were riding it, there was a couple there, and I think it was the girlfriend was asking, it's like, hey, is it possible that her boyfriend, I'm assuming, now I could be wrong, it could be brother and sister for all I know, but I'm pretty sure that it was boyfriend and girlfriend. She was asking, it's like, how much money do we have to pay so that my boyfriend could pull the horn on the car? And obviously that's not necessarily something that they let everybody do, but the gal that was like, you know, the conductor, she basically said, it's like, wait until we are done with the train run, and then, yeah, you can come up and pull the horn. And I'm thinking, how many places do you go to where they would even let you do that? Very few. Or it's like, case in point, I know a lot of the volunteers over there. They know me because I did the rail camp. And I remember asking them, hey, well, we were stopped in the station before we left, hey, is it possible to, you know, let Danielle check out the cab of the McKean car real quick? They're like, yeah, hey, so-and-so. Like Calvin and his friend Danielle in there, they're gonna check out the cab real quick. I mean, it's like most places you're lucky to stand and look in there, and over there they're like, yeah, you know, just, you know, don't trip over the engine, and it's kind of a tight fit. But if you want to come on in here and check it out real quick, feel free to do so. And that's really cool, because I completely understand a lot of places, you know, I'm gonna be straight up honest.
I've operated the equipment there in their Iron Horse camp, and there's a lot of stuff that you can injure yourself on, especially like a steam locomotive. But there are rates to do, cab rides where it's applicable, and if the crew allows it, predominantly in the steam equipment, for space reasons, they're very accommodating for that. It's like most places, it's like you got to pretty much take out a mortgage to do that. And over there, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit extra, and if the crew approves, you're in. Which is really nice because, yeah, safety is their number one concern, but they're also very accommodating where applicable or where they feel comfortable doing it, which is really nice because I feel like that's what kind of keeps people interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, also, I feel like, there's, at least the times that I've been there, I don't necessarily know what the regular demographic is like, but it seems like there is a mutual respect that it's like, yeah, okay, so you're accommodating us and allowing us to do this. At the same time, we're going to be gracious and grateful for the fact that you're allowing us to do this, and we're not going to be stupid about it.
Exactly. And another thing that was interesting is, I'm not going to go into all the details of it, but when I was talking to some of the crew that I knew, they were talking about the Great Western Steam Up, which was just insane, the amount of equipment that was out there, the amount of people that were out there. It was a huge event held in Carson City, and over 4 separate days, they had 0 incidents, which, considering most events, you would expect something to go wrong, especially something with trains and people everywhere, and especially old equipment. It's a testament to, them being very safety focused, but also being very much like you could literally walk right up to the equipment when it was over by the annex building, which most places you could not do that. This stuff was under steam. If the crew allowed it, you were allowed to go up in the cab with some of the equipment. It was nuts. But yeah, it's very much a gem of a museum. But if you do visit there, definitely be respectful of the staff, but don't be scared to ask questions. The worst that they can say is, no, sorry, we can't do that for safety reasons, but you never know. They might say yes.
Yeah, case in point. They let a passenger, go up into the cab to blow the horn.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. It sounds like something so simple, but considering what the majority of museums, at least that we've been to, allow, that is still something that is like, wow, that is like almost unheard of. It's like it's one thing to let you walk up close and look into the cab. It's another thing to say, oh, come on into the cab where we operate the machinery and you can blow the horn.
Okay, technically it's a whistle, but
okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm not a train nerd. He is.
And I will tell you though, when you're operating that thing and you're pulling on that cord, given the signal to either stop, go, back up, crossing, it's a rush. I'm not gonna lie. It almost transports you back in time. But okay, enough of a diversion about that. That's how we discovered Carson City.
Well, and yeah, we did spend kind of a little more time on that, but I think that is important because that's basically foundational to how we kept coming back.
Well, the other thing that's nice is one of the volunteers over there, Michael, who helped teach me driving the Edwards and the McKean car, he actually gave me, on one of the times that I was out there, I asked him, hey, do you have any suggestions for a good place just to, grab a little something to eat nearby? And he recommended LA Bakery, which is only open for breakfast and lunch, which we have yet to do, but we're thinking about hitting up after filming.
Probably.
And if it's any good, we'll put that in the description or put a graphic over this. And he also recommended Schatz Bakery, which is pretty much just like...
good old Schatz.
Just down the street from the Railroad Museum. And I'm not a coffee shop kind of person, but I was kind of like, oh yeah, hey, that sounds good. And yeah, instantly fell in love with the place. And then when you, me, and our third travel buddy, Hannah, were all out in, technically it's kind of like this gray zone between El Dorado and Toyabe National Forest.
You actually pronounced it correctly, wow.
I'm doing it on camera, so I'm not going to call it El Dorado and Toyota. I'm actually going to be professional for once because the GoPro's rolling.
For those of you who don't know, side tangent here, Calvin is very famous for mispronouncing things either accidentally or on purpose. And sometimes it catches people off guard because then it's like they ask him about places like, wait, where is that? And he's not even calling it the right name. So of course nobody's gonna know or find it.
whatever. So we were all freezing cold and super hangry, so we jump in the car and burn rubber to get over there before they closed. And you pretty much walk in the door and pretty much just have like hearts in your eyes when you see like all of this bread and pastries and
well, yeah, because
honey,
you know,
and jelly.
this isn't your typical like, you know, coffee shop type of place. I mean, like we said, it's a bakery, so they had like, you know, shelves of you know house-made bread and pastries, and even like the coffee drinks were like next level. This isn't your Starbucks coffee. Sorry, Starbucks, you are good for some things, but there's better coffee elsewhere. And I think also just the fact that it's like we were so tired and hungry after a time of playing in the snow.
We would have ate a cardboard box and been happy.
Yeah, I was pretty hungry. So to go
You
in
don't
there,
say.
to go in there to a nice warm environment because it was really cold, and just get like, you know, a nice hot cup of something. I think that's where I discovered their spiced chai, which was it's still my favorite drink there, and get some sandwiches. And
You got your sweet potato fries.
I got my sweet potato fries, and the sandwich that you ordered, they, I guess, ran out of like the typical bread that they would put it on. So they made a suggestion. It's like, oh, why don't you try like this Asagio cheese bread instead?
Yeah.
And
Well, they were out of ciabatta rolls because me and Hannah got a Dutch dip, which is just like a French dip with caramelized onions in it.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. And the girl comes on over feeling kind of like, oh, I'm really sorry we're out of ciabatta rolls, but we've got like all this other bread. And she mentions Asiago cheese bread. I'm like, yeah, I'll just do that. That sounds good. Mm-hmm. I think Hannah got that too. And it didn't even cross my mind what the heck it was. And I was like, dang, that's a really good sandwich. And then I remember I had gotten some sourdough cheese bread one of the times I went there, but they didn't have that. So I was like, oh, Asiago cheese bread. That sounds similar enough. Not realizing this stuff was just like extra next level of goodness. And we ran there this morning to grab breakfast and grab our bread, because if we don't go there and get our foodstuffs, we will be disowned by our families. We won't, but it's like, it's pretty much a thing where it's like, if I go out there, I have to bring something back because Danielle lives near my parents. So it's pretty much a thing where my mom and my sister will split a loaf of bread from there, and they both love it.
yeah, it's become like a requirement. Every time we stop in Carson City, we have to stop at Shad's.
Yeah.
Because it's just that wonderful of a place. And yeah, I practically devoured my sandwich the first time we were there because I was hungry, but it was also very delicious.
Oh yeah, we all left there very, very full. But one other thing that while we're at that, well, I mean, it's like right after we got done at Shad's, like literally a stone's throw away is Sportsman's Warehouse, and I figure this is worth covering too because we're talking about Carson City.
Mm-hmm. That was the first time that I had been exposed to Sportsman's Warehouse. I didn't even know Sportsman's Warehouse existed until we came out here. Now, I discovered later that there are locations in California, more in the northern part, which I didn't know that was the case. But first exposure was in Carson City, Nevada. And yes, life has never been the same since. Because it's like, I mean, most outdoors folks know about REI. That's like the main thing, especially in Southern California. And REI is great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Sportsman's Warehouse takes it to a whole nother level. Because it feels like REI on steroids, but the prices are a little more affordable, in my opinion.
Well, I kind of equate Sportsman's Warehouse to being kind of like this middle ground between Big Five, where you're going to get stuff for dirt cheap, but it's not really going to last, or REI, where you're going to write it into your will for the next 3 generations to use it. And then in the middle, you got Sportsman's Warehouse, where you can get some quality items, but you know that they're not going to, nothing lasts forever, but they don't feel like they're going to last one use, and they don't feel like you're buying something to last for 300 generations either. It's like, case in point, when we did a recent trip, which I'm not going to say on here because I'm not sure if the video is going to be out or not. Mm-hmm. We discovered accidentally there was one in Fresno, and then it was pretty much like, we need to go and grab some chairs, which you'll have seen in previous episodes. And they're really nice and compact. Heck, we even have them in the backpack here off camera,
Yes,
just
we
in
do.
case, because we didn't realize there was going to be a table here. But they're so nice and compact, but they came in super handy for the event we went to.
Absolutely.
And it was like, they were $50 a piece, so they were a little bit more on the expensive side, but considering how compact they were and the fact that you could spend $20 less for some gigantic chair, it was just kind of like a duh to get those instead. Because I remember I got the phone call from you and I'm like, well, what's the price difference? You know, like $20 a chair. And I'm like, get the $50 chairs if they're really compact. I think they'll come in handy for more than just this. And already they've proven well worth the money.
Oh yeah, so far they have been definitely worth the investment. So yeah, Sportsman's Warehouse. And the other thing about Sportsman's Warehouse is I feel like REI is kind of more geared to, I guess you could say, like climbers and stuff like that, which is great because, you know,
or backpacking, like hardcore outdoorsy people.
Yeah, I suppose so. Sportsman's, definitely their demographic is more people that are into hunting and fishing because they have like aisles of fishing poles and also a lot of hunting gear and basically a whole wall of hunting equipment.
We'll put it that way, should this video ever become monetized.
So for somebody who maybe is not really into that, it can be kind of a shock to walk into a store and see, you know, some taxidermy on the walls and then like a whole rack of, we'll say, hunting equipment. But it has its own charm, and I don't think there's been a time that we've gone into that place where we haven't spent money there because we always find something good and useful. It may start to become a problem.
Well, I mean, in our case, it's like the very first time we went there, I think I was like, I need to look for like some of those hot hands warmers.
Right.
And I found those and some other stuff. And then from pretty much that point on, it's pretty much like, usually when we do a trip, we figure out pretty quickly what we're lacking. So if we can find a Sportsman's Warehouse, it's like when we did which trip was it? It was Gold Bluffs that you got the trekking poles over in
Yes.
Redding.
Yes.
Plus some other equipment, which came in the water shoes, which came in super handy.
Oh, I will definitely talk more about that in another episode for sure.
Yeah, but the point is, it came in handy when we found that. We're like, oh, it's a Sportsman's Warehouse, we gotta go! Drive across town to get to it, and it was 1,000% worth it. But it's like, there's always, or it's kind of like they sell different brands of backpacking food than REI does, and certain brands, items cook better, in my opinion, taste better than others. It's like, that's how we discovered the Peak to Refuel breakfast granola. Really good stuff. I found it at an REI on, I think it was the Gold Bluff trip, and I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, let me just throw it in there. You can never have enough food when you're going camping because you get hungrier than you think and burn through your supplies quicker than you think. But yeah, it's awesome. But okay, going back to the parade, because we're like 25 minutes in and we haven't even talked about it yet.
Yeah. I feel like this is turning into more of a Carson City feature than anything else, but you know what? That's not a bad thing because Carson City deserves the love.
Well, I mean, this is the backstory behind why we keep coming back to this place, either me and Danielle or anybody, really.
Yeah, one other thing about Carson City that is, I think, really cool is that, okay, it is the capital city of Nevada, but it doesn't feel like a capital city. It is definitely way smaller than what you would think of as a capital city like Sacramento in California.
Where you got the gigantic Capitol building.
Yeah, and skyscrapers and all of that stuff. This definitely has more of kind of like a small town, small city feel. And downtown, actually, all of the buildings along the downtown area they've basically preserved kind of like that old time kind of mining town feel, because I think that's the origin story of Carson City in the first place. And it's just kept up very, very well. It looks very nice and it feels very like community based and homely, and it's a fun place to just walk around. And then the Capitol grounds are also really nice. There's like a park there. They just do a really good job of upkeeping it and making it look nice, which...
Yeah. Well, it's like when I did the railroad camp, Iron Horse Camp, a lot of the people in the camp had never been to Carson City before. And after the first day, they were like, man, like one of the guys was more in my age bracket. He actually just rode his bike down from the same hotel that I was staying at, which was like half a mile from the museum. But he actually was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ride downtown and check it out. And he's like, it was super awesome just riding around downtown. There was live music, there were people hanging out, all the older buildings. He goes, this place really kind of has a vibe that I feel like, because he was also from California, a lot of California has kind of lost, like that community spirit in a sense.
Yes, definitely.
You know, people, you know, it's really interesting.
So, on top of all of that foundation,
finally, the TLDR is we fell in love with Carson City.
And at that point, you started following the Instagram page Visit Carson City because I
think they actually followed me initially because I was posting up so much stuff when I would go to the Nevada State Railroad Museum. I tagged that in the content. I think they saw that, reposted it a couple of times, followed my Instagram. I followed them back, and if you're ever curious about a town, go look and see if their Chamber of Commerce has a social media page. That's the best way to get plugged into what's going on out there and get an idea of a feel of things, because obviously they're kind of pitching their why you should come and visit us and spend money.
Yeah, and they do a really good job running that page, I have to admit. It's like,
it's top notch.
Yeah, the content that they put on there, it's like, it's really nice, it's presented really well, and yeah, it definitely makes you want to come out there because it's like, ooh, that actually looks kind of cool. And case in point, that I think is how we found out about the Nevada Day celebration.
Because I remember I think I might have sent you, or you saw the link after it had happened for, like, you know, highlights from Nevada Day for last year. And you're all like, dude, we totally have to come out and check this out. This looks awesome. And I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. Not thinking to ourselves, it's kind of like, well, we can't see almost a year ahead into the future what life is going to be like.
Right.
But you had some downtime and I had some flexibility with my schedule at work. So it was kind of like, I think I remember I was talking to you and I'm like, hey, Nevada Day's coming up. Are you free at all? Because you're waiting for some bureaucratic stuff to get done so you can get back to work. And you're like, oh, yeah. So I'm like, well, let me just look and see what hotel rooms are like. Oh, they're actually not that bad.
What do you know?
So 2.5 weeks after our other trip, Danielle's motoring right back up to see me.
It's just like, well, you know, we have the downtime. Who knows when we're going to get that again?
We have the money.
It's now or never.
This is a once-a-year event. Let's go for it. And I gotta say, I'm not necessarily like somebody who loves to go to big events and whatnot, but holy crap, this thing was nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah, so let's get to the down low of like the events that we attended, and let us put a disclaimer here. The stuff that we talk about really is just a small part of the Nevada Day stuff.
Really tiny part.
Because they have a lot of events that happen over the weekend, and it was one of those things, it's like, unless you have, like, you know, unlimited energy, it's very hard to go and attend them all. And we basically went for, like, you know, kind of more the big stuff. And then after that, we were like, okay, that's enough fun and games for one day. We need to decompress a little bit.
I need to go hang with my favorite volunteers at the Railroad Museum and decompress a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. So what we ended up doing is we headed up to the area on a Friday, and we, of course, stopped at the Railroad Museum, said hi to some folks.
Definitely got a lot of really good advice from the volunteers over there.
Yeah, definitely. Because, you know, Calvin figured, hey, since we're out here for the Nevada Day celebration, it would be worth it to ask the locals what's worth going to see and how do you navigate the event. Solid advice.
Very, very solid advice. Thank you, Carrie, for all the advice. It really, really, really helped. Genuinely, it helped. Thank you again. So the big event that happens at Nevada Day is the Nevada Day Parade, and they definitely go all out with this. Oh gosh, yes.
Yes. So the way that the itinerary starts is in the morning.
Early in the morning
on the weekend, they have hot air balloons that are being blown up along the main street. They actually close the main street off for most of the day on Nevada Day because that's where the parade's going to be, and that's where the hot air balloons launch. So if you get there early enough, you can actually watch them blow up the balloons before they launch them into the sky. And we wanted to try to get there early, but at the same time, we also wanted to make sure we got a decent enough sleep. So we didn't get up at the crack of dawn per se, but we did get there in time to watch like all the balloons like inflate themselves, but we did get there in time to see them take off, which was awesome.
And the cool part is you were like 15 feet from them launching a balloon at one point. You know, they get the thing blown up with the fan to get some air inside the envelope. Girl climbs inside the basket, hits the propane burner a couple of times. Thing goes from lying on the ground to just literally ready to go. The passengers hop inside, and a couple of blasts, they let go, and the thing goes zoop.
Up and away. We did get to see one balloon inflate because I think they were running a little behind, but there was still plenty of time before the parade was going to start anyway, because the balloons take off like 2 hours before the actual parade starts. So that was awesome. And, you know, that's the other thing. It's like, people are just in the street, like, you know, watching these balloons inflate. There aren't like all these barricades and all these signs saying do not be in this area and stuff like that.
Obviously, common sense applies. Don't be crawling inside and
Of course. But it's kind of like people are pretty relaxed out there, and it's like, yeah, as long as you're not doing anything super dumb, you're allowed to literally like walk up and be within 5 feet of these balloons inflating themselves and taking off, and nobody bats an eye at it.
No, and that was really cool because I didn't know if it was going to be like, you know, they were going to have just the sidewalks packed with people, or, oh no, I'm just cruising down center of the street and watching them blow up a balloon, and I'm like, getting closer.
He's literally, because it's like, I'm like keeping my distance a little bit from this balloon because there's obviously other people there, and of course I don't want to crowd anybody, and I don't necessarily want to elbow my way through because I'm just trying not to be rude. But then as they're starting to, like, you know, turn on the
propane
burners that make the big flames, Calvin literally is behind me, and he literally pushes me forward to the front of the crowd. It's like, get a close-up shot at this.
Well, the other thing is they were starting to do that. People were backing off a little bit, so I'm kind of like, it's a now or never chance. Get in there, get the shot. I don't care if 30 seconds later they ask you to back up. As long as you can get that epic shot of that giant flame going in there, that is worth it. And that, we haven't edited the video, but we've looked at the raw footage.
Oh, it looks awesome.
It is freaking spectacular.
And that's
gosh.
And that's just the beginning. Like, we haven't even gotten to the main event of the parade.
Well, we should also talk about the nice thing is, because they did have aircraft flying over during the event, they had to land all the hot air balloons before they could do that.
Yes.
For obvious safety reasons, because you don't want a fighter jet flying into a hot air balloon. That's a very bad day.
That would be a disaster.
So they had to have about a 2-hour window from when they took off, flew, and landed to before they could actually do, because they start off the parade with 2 fighter jets doing a flyover. Then they had a Huey, which was flying above Main Street, but flying down the length of it with a giant American flag held underneath it, which was just amazing to watch. But the nice thing about having that time gap was the fact that it gave us time to mosey our way on down. Well, we should also say that we learned a good spot to watch was over by the Capitol building. Mm-hmm. So we went over to...
I think it was the legislator, but, you know...
The Capitol Greens.
The Capitol complex, if you will.
Yeah. So what happened is, Friday night, we mosey our way on over to our favorite place to get dinner. It used to be called the Union. Now it's called Great Basin.
Still the same great food, though.
Still the same great staff, great food, all that awesomeness. Mosey our way on over to there, and we'd already noticed that people were starting to set their chairs up on the side of the road.
People were literally taking, you know, like their fold-out chairs that you would take to a soccer game, putting them on, like, along the sidewalk, along, like, the grassy patches right up to the street, and we're tying them with all kinds of different rope or caution tape or something like that to the light poles.
Or even to their other chairs to denote, this is my territory. So after we had dinner, we may or may not have had some 21 plus beverages along with our meals, and to be safe, we decided, you know what, it wasn't very far from where we had parked to just walk over to Sportsman's Warehouse. We were gonna, look at a few things, because when in Carson City, thou shalt go to Sportsman's Warehouse.
Yes.
Just because you never know what they've got in there, just to kill a little bit of time. And we saw people setting up their chairs, and to your credit, you go, dude, we should probably go and get the chairs out of the trunk. And at first I'm thinking to myself, what the heck? But I was like, okay, you know what? Worst case scenario, if the chairs get stolen in the night, we can always go buy some more. I mean, it would have been a bummer, but it's not like it's the end of the world. So we run back to the car.
Yeah, well, and it was also one of those things. My logic was, it's like, look, if there are, and it wasn't like the sidewalks were completely saturated with chairs yet, but
it was getting to that point.
It was getting to that point, and there was a good amount. And I'm thinking, it's like, if we don't put our chairs out now, probably we're going to be scouring for a spot in the morning, and it's probably going to be even more full then.
And it's going to be really stressful.
Let's take a little lesson here from the locals and actually be proactive about this. So, and the fact that there were so many other people that were doing this, setting up their chairs, and, sure, they kind of like secured instead of having, like a bike lock, they secured them with a rope to a light post or a tree or something like that. But I'm thinking, it's like, if so many other people are doing this, it's probably fine.
Yeah. So we run back to the car, grab our little mini chairs, which we'll kind of put an overlay to them and a link in the description.
Yeah.
Super helpful. You also happen to still have your paddleboard in the trunk with the anchor that I made you, so we had a rope.
Yeah, because I didn't have a rope. And I'm thinking, it's like, well, how are we going to tie these off just to be on the safe side? And then I realized, oh yeah, I have my anchor. We can use that.
So we're literally running on back there, find a little patch, set the chairs up, and then I'll probably just overlay the video from all of that. But then there were also, well, we'll just play the video and you'll see. So we're literally across from some state capitol annex buildings, and there's some deer just staring at us like, hi, what's up? Maybe that's why people tie their chairs down. Oh, please tell me this deer's gonna use the crosswalk. Please tell me he's gonna use the crosswalk.
Please don't cross the street. I am so scared.
Do you want to hit the button for them?
Deer. Oh dear. Oh dear.
People are stopping. They know.
Where are they going? Guys. Are they all there? Did they all make it safely? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, that's all 6 of them. They decided to come for the Nevada Day Parade too.
Do we want to go on the other side of the fence and take a few photos of them? Because we'll be a safe distance.
Yeah, there were also some unexpected visitors that we didn't expect to run into when we were out there, but that was really cool to see. They were pretty chill about it.
that was a really cool, almost kind of like pre-game to the game.
Yeah, it almost seemed like they knew what was up.
So going back to the actual parade day itself, because the battery and the memory card are getting full at this point, we've entered the yellow zone.
So yeah, we had already seen the balloon launch, which was super awesome. And then we were thinking, it's like, okay, well, we need to go and we should go get some breakfast. and the place we were going to get breakfast from wasn't open yet. We were going to go to Great Basin because they had advertised that they were going to sell breakfast burritos.
The only complaint that I have is they didn't say what time they were going to start at, but they opened up soon enough, so it wasn't the end of the world.
So yeah, we were kind of walking around scouting the area, and you know, there were some establishments that were open for breakfast, obviously, and then there were also some street booths that were
a lot of them on the side roads.
Yeah, that were selling things as well. But we kind of had our heart set on getting stuff from Great Basin
because we knew it was probably going to be really good.
Exactly. So in the meantime, because you know, it was definitely, I mean, this is late October, and
it was just above freezing.
Temperatures get cold out here, so we wanted some warm drinks, or at least I wanted a warm drink.
Sorry, I'm moving so I'm blocking the sun again.
And pushing me off of the table. Thank you. So we wanted to get some warm drinks, and we needed to go to a place that was actually open. So actually, right behind Great Basin was this coffee shop that we had walked past many times before when we had visited, and we just never checked it out. And it was one of those things I had kind of always kept in the back of my head. It's like, it would be nice to check that out at some point. It looks kind of cute because they have like this big patio area with, like, you know, this big fire pit that you can sit next to, and it looks really nice and really warm and welcoming. So we finally went to that place. It's called Old World Coffee, I believe.
Coffee Lab, I think.
Old World Coffee Lab, yeah. So we went in there, and yeah, again, this is not your typical Starbucks coffee. This is like, you know, your fancy coffee.
Next level.
And yes, you definitely are paying fancy prices. But in this case, it is actually worth it because
my hot chocolate was only like $3.50, I think.
Well, yeah, you got hot chocolate. I got, like, you know, a coffee drink, like a.
You got sweater weather
weather latte, which was basically like gingerbread flavor latte.
I'm not a big coffee guy, and I had a sip of that, and if you hadn't told me it was coffee, I would have thought it was like some spiced hot chocolate. It was that good.
Oh, it was delicious. And the staff there, of course, was very, very nice. Everybody was super relaxed. So
super friendly.
Oh yeah, and your hot chocolate, hot cocoa, that was also next level. It knocked you out for sure.
The depressing part about it is it will be very hard to top that, but now I know where to go if it's cold to get something hot to drink that's really good.
Yeah, this was like the perfect combination of richness, but also not so rich that you couldn't drink the whole thing.
Yeah, but it also had some nice sweetness to it, and it also had a nice creaminess. I don't know how they made the stupid thing, but it was dang good, because I was like, I'm not a real coffee person, and I knew if I had a bunch of caffeine that morning, I was just going to be so wired I wasn't going to be able to film. So I was like, yeah, I need to get something hot to drink, so I got the hot chocolate, and thinking to myself, what the hey. At least it's something warm, not realizing it was going to be just like next level hot chocolate.
So those drinks already put us in a good mood. I mean, not that we weren't in a good mood before, but.
And then you came back a little while later with breakfast burritos.
Yeah, finally Great Basin opened up and we got our breakfast burritos.
Right around 9, I think.
So we were happy about that, and then we mosey our way over to our chairs.
Those breakfast burritos were next level.
And we were basically waiting for the parade to start. And this is the other thing. It's like the parade hadn't even started yet, and yet there was still so much entertainment around where we were.
Oh gosh, we had a grown man in a blow-up dinosaur costume.
A T-Rex suit.
That was the best thing ever. Oh my gosh, all the kids in the area were just having so much fun messing around with him.
He was like, you know, kind of running around chasing them, and then they were squirting silly string at him, but he totally got into the character, and it was just so entertaining to watch. It was great.
And then the other cool thing is, you know, it's like the nice thing was there was definitely a police presence in the area, but it wasn't like it was overbearing.
Yes.
Because it was like they would occasionally patrol by, you know, just to make sure that the crowds weren't all spilling out into the streets, creating a safety hazard. But for the most part, it was like, you know, they were just cruising on by. We had a bunch of, I think they were kind of just getting the street ready for the parade to start. You had a bunch of Nevada police officers on horseback riding by.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And then we had the jets fly over, which I barely managed to catch. Then we had the helicopter, and then you just had like police and fire and ambulance, and the whole parade started.
The parade is starting at this point, and it's like the whole cavalry showed up. It's like
literally.
It's like first you've got, you know, all the people that are on the police motorcycles, and then you have the police cars, and then you have the fire engines.
The kids love that because they were hitting the horn like every 5 seconds. All the kids are like,
oh yeah, that was another thing that was so cute, was across the street on the other side of the street where we were at, there was like this whole group of kids. And I guess another thing that they do is some booths, they actually throw candy out to the audience. So they
drink koozies, stickers. Yeah. It was awesome.
So they were passing out bags to everybody who wanted to collect candy. And of course, you know, the kids are all over that. But there was this whole group of kids along the side of the street. And every time there was a vehicle going by, they would cheer like, honk the horn, honk the horn. And most of the time the vehicles responded. Some of them didn't respond, but it was always so cute and so cool to see their faces light up and them jumping for joy when they actually responded and like pulled the horn down really, really loud.
That was so much fun.
And yeah, they were also like, you know, pushing on the different siren sounds and stuff like that, you know, just really getting the crowd hyped for what was to come.
Yeah. And then the cool part is partway through the parade, because it was kind of like it was a combination of, you'd have like vehicles, and then you'd have performers, and then you'd have like state vehicles going through, be it like police, fire, medical, Nevada Department of Transportation, things like that. And it was really cool though, especially like when you had the marching bands and stuff coming through. Oh yeah, you were really getting into that. I never did marching band, but I did percussion in a youth orchestra, so I love being able to be close to the drums where you can literally feel every hit in your chest. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was loving every minute of that. And then near the end, it was really cool because they also had some of the floats from Burning Man out there. Oh, that was like the grand finale, because that was
near the end.
And then you had like performers with like doing various tricks with like poi and like literal like rope knots that were on fire, and it was just like, some of them they had to be more careful with what they were setting off, but some of them were actually setting off like propane poofers in time with music, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it totally gave me Maker Faire vibes, because they always had a couple of Burning Man vehicles over there as well shooting fire. Mm-hmm. No, which was awesome. This wasn't just like, you know, one or two vehicles that were shooting a couple poofs. I mean, they literally had like this truck going by that had like 8 of these things along like, you know, the place where people were sitting and waving at people, and they're just going off like crazy in time with music. And I'm squatted on the ground to get some good low angle shots because Daniel was shooting high, and I'm feeling every single time they're setting that thing off, I'm feeling a blast of heat on my face, and I'm like, oh man. And then it was a sensory experience. Oh yeah. And that was another cool thing about this. It's like, yeah, there were some, you know, companies and stuff like that had places in the parade. You know, it's a good marketing tool, of course. And then because this happens to be an election year, there was also, you know, political candidates that were, you know, trying to get their face out to the crowd as well. So it's like, you know, take that for how you will. But for the most part, this felt like a really like community-centered event, because they had different schools, they had some churches had floats that were representing them. There was like, you know, a local theater troupe. There was the dancing horses. Oh, those things were next level. Oh, watching these guys like on the horses was so cool, because you're thinking, it's like, how do you get the horse to do that? And these horses were very well behaved, considering that you got crowds cheering them on the whole time. And I know some horses get very easily spooked by loud noise. These horses were, kudos to them. They were extremely well trained to stay, you know, not just go psycho with the crowd. And I know a couple of the riders actually, I think their horses were comfortable enough that they actually kind of went along the side to let the kids pet them. Yeah, which was so cool. You know, it was really fun, because a couple of the mounted horsemen were kind of like from like the police department, I think, had like their arm out to like give all the kids high fives. So I think I actually caught one of them giving me kind of like, you got a couple of high fives from folks, which was really fun. It was like, yeah, you know, or the really fun part as well is when the Nevada State Railroad Museum also had a float.
Oh yes, that was the thing that he was waiting for. He was just
I had to run to the bathroom partway through.
You were so worried that you were gonna miss it.
I'm like, if I miss the float, and everybody asks, did you see the float in the parade? And I say, no, I was in the bathroom. I was never gonna hear the end of it from everybody over there. So I'm like, wait, that's Professor. Wait, it's the museum float. Oh, sweet.
So he's like saying, hi, Professor.
And all of a sudden he realizes, hey, it's you. and then the really fun part is Rick, who's one of the volunteers at the museum, who taught me how to be the fireman on 25. He's up in their Joe Douglas, I think it is, their little steam locomotive, which they actually had steamed up, and he was tooting the horn going down the street, and I think he kind of heard the commotion, and he kind of looks over and he goes, points and like kind of waves and grins when he sees me. And it was really cool though that it's like, out of all the crowd of people, they were able to recognize me, because nobody really knew that I was going to be over there, because none of those people who I saw over at the museum were necessarily on the parade float. And it was really cool though, just to see and, you know, totally cheer on like the whole reason why we come out to Carson City in the first place, which is the Railroad Museum. But that was really, really cool to see that though. That not to say that everything else didn't make it worth it, but being able to see that as well really kind of was like the icing on the cake for me. Definitely.
And to some of the businesses' credits that were in this parade in the first place, I mean, some of them, it's kind of like they didn't really put any effort into it, and they were just, you know, going through the parade to be like a moving advertisement.
Hi, we're in the parade, whoop-de-woo.
But there were some businesses that actually really went all out and really tried to get into the spirit of the parade. Case in point was like, you know, the tree cutting business. Monster tree cutting or something like that.
We'll overlay it on this probably, but they literally had on their trailer, besides like showing off their gigantic trucks for doing arborist work and like this weird tracked like thing with like a bucket lift on it, they literally had a trailer with a tree that they had cut down, and they had welded a base to the trailer. They had some guy ropes, and they had two arborists hanging from the thing with their chainsaws waving at the crowd. And I'm just like, you guys take the cake for the craziest thing that I've seen all day, but I am totally digging this.
Oh, it was great. It's like, if you're going to advertise for your company, that's the way to do it in a parade.
If I lived out there, I think I would remember them just as being like, if they're that crazy, you know, they probably put a lot of pride into their work.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, even if you aren't a Nevada resident and you like going out and watching parades, or you kind of want a fun event for the whole family and you're going to be in the area, I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. And the nice thing as well is the Railroad Museum, I know for a fact, at least for this year for Nevada Day, for Friday and Saturday, they're running the McKean car. They charged for rides, but they were not charging for museum admission. I know a couple of other museums in the area weren't charging admission to get in as well, which is really, really nice. So if you've ever wanted to go and check them out, what better time to do it than when there's free admission?
Yeah.
Or even if it isn't free, it might be discounted. Obviously, double check before you go, because things are subject to change. But that was a really nice thing as well. It's like, I'm a member at the museum, so I would have gotten a discount on admission, but it was still really cool just to go on over there and, you know, get to check all that out, because there were a lot of people who legitimately didn't know the museum was open and running the McKean car, literally saw the thing and pulled in there and bought tickets to ride, because they're like, oh, you're running? Shoot, we didn't even realize it.
Yeah. And another great thing, going back to how awesome the Railroad Museum is.
I'm going to look like this so I can block the sun out.
Exactly. But anyways, one other thing was, because they close off the main road for the parade, obviously it's like, if you're going to go and park your car somewhere, you can't go down that road. So a lot of times you have to go around to the side streets. But again, everybody's doing that, so things get kind of crowded. But what we could do, because the people over there were gracious enough to let us know, was we could park our car at the Railroad Museum.
And walk down.
And just walk down, which is only, maybe a mile at most.
I mean, it saved us walking an extra half a mile from our hotel, the Motel 6, to get over there. But it was nice to know that we had the car a little bit closer, so just in case we had to run to the car and get something or drop something off, we at least knew it was over there. And it wasn't like we were trying to find parking on side streets, which was just insane.
Yeah, so that saved us a lot of hassle because we already knew that there was a place that we could park the car and that there would be spots available. And sure, we would have to walk a little bit, but it really wasn't that big of a deal.
No, that's the other perk of having those ridiculously tiny chairs is I literally just kind of rolled them up and just carried them back with me, shoved the anchor weight into my pocket, and was just like, you know what, let's just grab it all and go. It's not that big of a deal.
Yes, so... And then, like, the grand finale of that whole parade was they had, I think it was like a rifle club or something like that go by. And they were doing like a, I don't know what you would call it, like a gun salute.
Yeah, something like that. And that was nuts because they go down the street. They were all shooting 12 gauges with blanks. And they go down the street and then they'd stop when they're kind of like the person in charge of it would say so. They'd stop, hold them up in the air, bang, stop. Walk down some more, reload, bang! Like, that was nuts.
Yeah, your ears would hurt a little bit, but it would be worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I mean, after that, we were like completely zonked because it's like there was just so much energy and so much happening, and it was a great event. But after that, we needed a break. So after that, there were other events that were happening after that. We're not going to cover them because we didn't actually go to those. We
went for the parade and we got our money's worth.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and you know, we didn't even have to pay for the parade. Obviously, we had to pay for the hotel rooms, but that was just so cool. It was so cool to see. Car going by.
Yeah.
See a...
Oh, nice. We need that.
See a statewide event that still felt like a...
small town event.
A community-based thing, and just everybody getting into it and everybody having a good time and just...
Everybody being super friendly and super nice.
Cheering the parade on. It was amazing. So if you...
It gave me hope for humanity, and I genuinely mean that.
If you ever want a fun event to go to just to experience what it feels like, this is definitely an event that's worth coming out for.
Oh, for sure. Not to mention all the other stuff going on, the museums being open. I think they even opened up like the governor's mansion for tours.
They did.
We never did that, but there was the thing is there was so much going on. It was kind of like the old predicament in the Maker Faire days of, I know I'm going to miss certain things to see other things, but what's the hierarchy of things I need to see?
Absolutely.
But hey, there's always next year.
Oh yeah, there is always next year.
We just need to rope another person in just to document the parade, and then we just run off and do everything else.
Yeah, because it's like we literally got so much footage from the parade because we practically filmed the whole thing.
We shot like...
And it was 3 hours long.
We shot like 64 gigabytes of footage in 4K because we did it in 4K so I can zoom in more and not lose quality. But yeah, it's freaking nuts, man.
It was incredible. So yes, definitely come visit Carson City. It is awesome. If you're here, if you come for the Nevada Day, it's gonna take the awesomeness level to
11,
12 even. So yes, that is Carson City, a gem that we didn't expect to become near and dear to us, but it has wowed us every time we've come.
Yeah, all I can say is it's nice to come to somewhere where the people are genuinely friendly and it just kind of has that small town vibe without feeling like there's 5 people in the town and everybody knows your business.
Exactly.
So.
All right. For those of you that made it to the end of this episode, which is probably going to be our longest episode yet, thank you for putting up with us.
If you made it to the end, please comment, "We made it." We'll know.
Yes, and if there were any places that weren't necessarily a priority destination for you, but you found to be a real hidden gem for you on your travels, let us know in the comments. We're always looking for new places to explore, and we love hearing stories about places that maybe were unassuming in the beginning, but turned out to be really awesome places when you really got to take a look at them.
And hey, maybe we could do a whole episode in the future where if we kind of aggregated a bunch of really good, bad, or discovered place stories, it'd be fun to kind of put those together where we kind of like read off the comments and talk about it and go, hey, we've been there. Hey, that looks cool. We should check that out.
Exactly.
That'd be kind of fun. So yeah, if you got any good stories or something, dump down below. We genuinely love to get feedback from other people because the only way you learn is from feedback.
Absolutely. All right. Take care, y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.